It's time for the podcast. Yeah, the podcast is starting.
What's a podcast?
It's all gonna be alright in the end. It's gonna be alright. And if you've got some worries, my dear little fries, please rest your busy minds, because it's finally time for stories from now and then.
Hey kids, welcome back to Stories from Now and Then. Captain Blunderface here. I'm back in the old library, and they are doing some furnace repairs right now, so I'm currently freezing, and I'm wearing my thickest turtleneck sweater. Deprecatus has been bringing in piles of hay from the outside for some reason. What? You're making your own nest? I don't think cats really do that kind of thing. I think that's more of a bird activity, but whatever you need, pal. Before we brush off the snow and start the story, today's shout-out goes to Eli in Baden, Ontario, who loves playing the drums and also apparently doing stunts. Hopefully not at the same time. Eli, this story is for you. Oh, we just got a message from our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Guest Getter. They help restaurants bring in guests and keep them coming back, which is great because I personally forget where I'd like to eat unless someone reminds me. Guest Getter helps restaurants do that, but on purpose. Check them out at guestgetter.co. All right, Nicola, today's story is Christmas in the Barn. Take us somewhere else that's warm and filled with straw.
The next story is about Christmas time and a little boy called Johnny with a bright idea. Today's story is called Christmas in the Barn by Francis Arnstein. Only 2 more days and Christmas would be here. It had been snowing hard, and Johnny was standing at the window, looking out at the soft white snow, which covered the ground 1/2 foot deep. Presently, he heard the noise of wheels coming up the road, and a wagon turned in at the gate and came past the window. Johnny was very curious to know what the wagon could be bringing. He pressed his little nose close against the cold window and, to his great surprise, saw 2 large Christmas trees. Johnny wondered why there were 2 trees and turned quickly to run and ask Mama all about it. But then he remembered that Mama was not at home. She had gone to the city to buy some Christmas presents and would not be back until quite late. Johnny began to feel that his toes and fingers had grown quite cold from standing at the window so long. So he pulled his little chair up to the cheerful fire and sat there quietly thinking. His kitty, who had been curled up in the corner, jumped up and rubbed her head against Johnny's knee to get his attention. He patted her gently and began to talk to her about what was on his mind. He had been wondering how on earth there were 2 trees delivered that day, and finally decided he had the answer. "I know, Kitty," said he, "why there are 2 trees. This morning, when I said goodbye to Daddy at the gate, he said he was going to buy one for me. And Mama, who was busy in the house, did not hear him say so, and so I'm sure she must have bought the other. But what shall we do with 2 Christmas trees?" Kitty jumped into his lap and purred and purred. A plan suddenly flashed into Johnny's mind. "Would you like to have one, Kitty?" Kitty purred more loudly, and it seemed almost as though she had said yes. "Oh, I will, if Mama will let me. I'll have a Christmas tree out in the barn for you, Kitty, and for all the animals. And then you'll all be as happy as I shall be with my tree in the house." Suddenly, there was a ring at the doorbell, and quick as a flash, Johnny ran, with a happy, smiling face, to meet Daddy and Mama and give them each a big hug. During that evening, he told them all that he had done that day, and also about the 2 big trees which the man had brought. It was just as Johnny had thought. Daddy and Mama had each bought one, and as it was so close to Christmas, they decided they would not send either of them back. Johnny was very glad of this, and told them of his idea he had had, and asked if he could have the extra tree. Daddy and Mama smiled as Johnny explained his plan, but they said he may have the tree, and Johnny went to bed feeling very happy. That night, his daddy fixed the tree into a block of wood so that it would stand up straight, and then set it in the middle of the barn floor. The next day, when Johnny had finished his studies, he went to the kitchen and asked Mama if she would save the bones and potato peels and all other leftovers from the day's meals and give them to him the following morning. He also begged her to give him several cupfuls of salt and cornmeal, which she did, putting them in paper bags for him. Then she gave him some dishes he asked for, a few old chipped ones and an old wooden bowl. Mama wanted to know what Johnny intended to do with all these things, but he just said, "Wait until tomorrow, and then you shall see." He gathered up all the things which his Mama had given him and carried them to the barn, placing them on a shelf in one corner, where they would be all ready for him to use the next morning. Christmas morning came, and as soon as he could, Johnny hurried out to the barn, where the Christmas tree stood, which he was going to decorate for all his animals. The first thing he did was to get a paper bag of oats. This he tied to one of the branches of the tree for Mabel the horse. Then he put together several bundles of hay and tied these on the other side of the tree, not quite so high up, where Daisy the cow could reach them, and on the lowest branches, some more hay for Spotty the calf. Next, Johnny hurried to the kitchen to get all the things Mama had promised to save for him. She had plenty to give. With his arms and hands full, he went back to the barn. He found 3 lovely bones with plenty of meat on them. These he tied together to another branch of the tree for Rover, his big black dog. Under the tree, he placed the big wooden bowl and filled it well with potato peels, rice and meat left over from yesterday's dinner. This was the Christmas dinner for Piggywig. Near this, he placed a bowl of milk for Kitty, on one plate the salt for the pet lamb, and on another the cornmeal for the dear little chickens. On the top of the tree, he tied a basket of nuts. These were for his pet squirrel. And I had almost forgotten to tell you of the bunch of carrots tied very low down where his white bunny could reach them. When it was all done, Johnny stood back to look at his wonderful Christmas tree. He clapped his hands with joy and ran to call Daddy and Mama, and they laughed aloud when they saw what he had done. It was the funniest Christmas tree they'd ever seen. They were sure all the animals would love the presents Johnny had chosen. Then there was a busy time in the barn. Daddy and Mama helped to bring in the animals, and before long, Mabel, Daisy, Spotty, Rover, Piggywig, Kitty, Lambkin, the chickens, the squirrel, and Bunny the rabbit had each been led to his own Christmas dinner on or under the tree. What a funny sight it was to see them all standing around looking so happy and content, eating and drinking their Christmas dinners. While watching them, Johnny had another idea, and he ran quickly to the house and brought out the new trumpet which Daddy had given him for Christmas. By this time, the animals had all finished their meals, and Johnny gave a little toot on his trumpet as a signal that the Christmas dinner was over. Mabel went neighing and prancing to her stall. Daisy walked demurely off with a bellow, which Spotty, the calf, running at her heels, tried to imitate. The little lamb skipped bleating away. Piggywig walked off with a grunt. Kitty jumped on the fence with a meow. The squirrel still sat up in the tree, cracking her nuts. Bunny hopped to her snug little nest, while Rover, barking loudly, chased the chickens back to their coop. Such a hubbub of noises! Mama said it sounded as if they were trying to say, "Merry Christmas to you, Johnny. Merry Christmas to all." That was a really lovely story. Christmas is one of my favourite times of the year, and I loved how Johnny turned a simple mistake into a really special time for all of his animals. Wasn't that kind of him to share the Christmas spirit like that?
Nice one, Nicola. Deprecatus is now asleep in a pile of blankets and humming along to the theme song. Remember, if you want a shout out, get your parents to DM us on Instagram at Stories From Now and Then. Stories From Now and Then is narrated by Nicola Ward, music by Captain Blunderface. Captain Blunderface is played by Evan Wiebe. Take care, and we'll see you next time on
Stories from Now and Then.